credit score secrets and business credit for realtors, similar to the topic we had started talking about on Facebook Live on Thursday. Okay, good. So now credit scores, perfect. So we are now live on YouTube. Yay!
We've pushed all the right buttons, all 37 of the right buttons in the correct order for us to be live.
And we got the sound working again, which is great. And we are live. We're streaming live into Clubhouse, which I'll put my phone up here so that they can hear us really well. So the way that we do this, just a format for everybody who's listening, is that we always love questions. I get so many questions about credit. It is probably the number one topic from 10 years on Sirius XM radio to all the platforms I've been on for years. It's always the number one credit. And partly I think it's because it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like there is this mystery behind it, which it's so funny because, and I was so excited when I met you years ago. I've kind of, it was so funny how, you and I have known each other for so many years. I wanted to start with, I think this is a great quote that I think is such a perfect one. This is from a book, Credit Scores and Credit Reports. And it says, how is a credit score calculated? Like the formula for Coca-Cola. The precise formula that are used for calculating various kinds of credit scores are very well guarded trade secrets. And so, of course, one of the first things I wanted to start off with jumping in is that you are an amazing, I want to say asset for everybody who is listening to this, but two,
that is so kind.
Are so interested in helping people that you keep digging and digging and digging. It's like you're trying to get the formula for Coca-Cola. So you're always reverse engineering
right?
The algorithms that are judging us. And quite frankly, for so many people, it feels very invalidating because there are all these weird computer algorithms that are saying, yes, you're a good person, or no, you're not a good person. And that's not really what's happening, but it feels like that. And so you have dedicated your life, and I think it's amazing what you've done. So I wanted just to start off really quickly, and I know a lot of people already know you, but kind of in a short way, would you tell a little bit about your story and why did you get into this whole credit and business funding, this whole game? I want to call it the money game, but it's credit and money, right?
Yeah, credit and funding game, truly. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show today. And I cannot tell you, first, I have so much fun every time we do a show together, every time I interview you or you interview me, because I love that we're titans in our fields, but that we want to make more titans. And there was a what do you call it? A story I heard a long time ago that said, the greatest masters are not the people who have the most students. It's the people who make the most masters, who create the most masters.
Love that.
And that's all I'm about. I know that that's the same for you, but that's what I'm about. Is I don't want to be anybody's guru. I'm just shining a light on the issue. I want everybody to learn it and then share it with their family, share it with their friends, their associates. I want them to create their own tribes with this knowledge, right? But to my background, I grew up in Northern California in the Bay Area, and I graduated from college from Sac State, and this guy I was already an entrepreneur. I had a desktop publishing business. The guy comes in and asks me, hey, why don't you, how would you like to put this little operation you have in the back of a copy store, rent a computer? It was when the first laser printers, everything came out. He said, would you like to do this to all my franchises? I'm like, there were 26 of them at the time. We grew it to about 87. And so it was my first taste of working with entrepreneurs, because small business owners couldn't afford these massive printing presses and all this stuff for themselves. So they came into my shop, printed out on the new laser printers, their graphic designs, their brochures, and then they'd go to the front of the copy store and produce them. Well, I sold my interest in that part of the business and was sitting on some cashola, I moved back to Utah to be with some friends. Didn't know a soul, just my wife at the time, and my daughter. We moved back, and that's when I met the the gentleman who I would soon start Lexington law firm with. But it was being an entrepreneur. And it was being and seeing the dilemma of people of men and women who were starting their own businesses and had to bootstrap it. Right? They're literally trying to shave off dollars to create the most amount of yield in their time and in their money, et cetera. And I was doing the same thing. I built one business, and now I was starting another, Lexington Law. Well, while I was at Lexington, that's kind of where this became a thing for me. I've always been, I mean, just as a personality, I'm kind of like, share the love, share the knowledge. Everybody should at least know what's going on so they can make informed choices, right? I don't care if it's politics, government, health and well-being, food, everything. Just speak the truth and let everybody, then I don't care what you do. I don't care what you do as long as you know the truth, right?
Right. And so often I was going to say, we don't know the truth, or we've been lied to. And I hate to put it that bluntly, but I don't know any other way. Deceived. We've been deceived. And that's why I started off with that quote about the Coca-Cola formula and the whole credit score funding, this whole process. And not only have we been lied to or misled, or however you want to put it in a polite term, so often the rules keep changing to the game.
Yeah.
And I feel so frustrated because even what I was helping people understand, I've been in real estate now 24, 25 years. And it's amazing because not only as a licensed real estate agent, I've been able to help people create, buy their own house, but also real estate investing. And I love teaching people about it. However, what I was teaching them 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, and you and I have known each other, I think we're on 10 years now.
We're almost 10 years, yeah.
It's been a while. And I think that's one of the interesting things that I love about you is that you understand, you pulled the curtain back. And, we've talked about it over the years. There are some things that, and one of the reasons I wanted this to be about myths, some of the myths that that they think are true, that are not true, but also let's focus on helping real estate agents and anyone who's a business owner, because business lines of credit is really, and I know you have some great words for it, but it's like the holy grail. It's the
trophy.
You just constantly, it'll help you fund any dream, any business, anything you want, is if you have people who are throwing money at you. And that's business lines of credit, right?
Yep. Business lines of credit, because you can write a check and do a deal. Now, well, the first myth let's take on while we go through this process is to understand that credit, there are operators out there, there are businesses out there who are seeking to deceive you by the language that they use. Because everybody wants credit lines, they want to be able to write a check and treat it like cash, do a deal, do whatever, grow your business, right? Pay your payroll or take down a property. But that check, so many times they'll say, yeah, let's get you business credit lines. Well, what they're actually saying is because some credit cards will call the credit limit on a credit card a credit line.
Right.
And so these operators, they should know better. And I call you out. If you're listening, shame on you, because you're trying to tell somebody they don't necessarily know how to have this conversation yet. Jennifer, that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
So, there's a difference between a credit card and a credit line. And just because the limit on the credit card, on the paperwork, it says your credit line is $20,000, that doesn't make the credit instrument a credit line, you guys. They are lying to you. And since you don't know yet, that's why you're here, that's why you're investigating. Since you don't know yet, they're taking advantage of everybody who hasn't learned to distinguish, hasn't learned how to ask the right questions. Tony Robbins quoted somebody who said that the quality of our lives is determined on the quality of our questions we ask. And so the whole purpose of our spending time together over and every week, we're doing something, Jennifer, you and me, because we have the same priorities, the same values, which is pull back the curtain, share the truth, and let people then, if you want a credit card at 0% interest, on your personal profile, and when you use it, your score goes down, your utilization goes up, fine. But at least know what type of credit instrument you're using.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that you and I ask you this a lot. And I think it's so important that we define the terms, the words, jargon that we're using. And I want to start again, just from the basics, because again, we're always going to do this as a series, but if we don't start from the basics, and one of them you just said was business lines of credit, but you also, it's really important. You talked about being one of the people who helped found Lexington Law. Lexington Law is doing all sorts of commercials right now about repairing your credit, repair your credit. So let's talk about the difference. What is the difference between repairing your credit and, of course, defining that, but in relation to getting a mortgage or a business line of credit versus optimization?
Yeah, there's first of all, there's a huge difference. Credit repair is simply, traditional credit repair is the act of you or somebody else, in this case, it was Lexington Law, on behalf of consumers. You write a dispute letter, you look at your credit report, you outline there's three terms under which something cannot be listed on your credit profile. One, it's inaccurate, meaning it's even if it says something as simple as your balance is on your bank, your balance says that you have a $500 balance on your credit card. But if the credit reporting, it says it's $450, and you look at your statement and you look at your credit report and there's a difference, that's inaccurate. The second one is that, and it can be dates, there's 17 plus different things for you to check. The next one is there is what's called erroneous. Error is the root word. It's an error, meaning it is not even supposed to be listed on your credit report. You never had a bankruptcy, but somebody with your same name has a bankruptcy and it ended up on your credit report. That's erroneous. So accurate, erroneous, or unverifiable, meaning the account information associated with your personal identity information, if it cannot be identified as belonging to you as an identity, or like back in the day, a countrywide mortgage was a huge thing back in 2008. We remember the days, those of us who are some of us listeners weren't even born yet, but just kidding. So in 2008, Countrywide was bought by Bank of America, right? And so Bank of America gathered all of these records, but they kept them in separate systems. They did not input them into the separate system, or they didn't input them into the Bank of America system. And so they just rebranded. Well, if you wrote a dispute about a mortgage to Countrywide, for a period there, they were not spending a lot of time verifying the accuracy of those records because Bank of America was too busy doing the work of taking all of these mortgages in under their umbrella. And so if it's not verifiable is the third reason why something can be removed from your profile. The problem is everybody has been led to believe, here's another myth, misrepresentation, misconception, is that I had a client once who came to me post bankruptcy and said, why didn't I know you 5 years earlier? And I'm going to talk to him. I don't know why you don't know me 5 years earlier. And he's like, I did a bankruptcy because I was told by certain people in my business community that I could just do credit repair and have it removed afterwards. There is not a guarantee of removal of negative items through the credit repair process, the disputing process. And so misrepresentation number one is credit repair doesn't solve problems. It may help you get rid of the low-hanging fruit off of your credit profile, but you guys, it isn't a magic, it's not this magic bullet. It does not ensure that you can make mistakes or something, be victimized, financially harmed, and then go, "Ooh, wipe the slate clean." That is rarely the condition. The other myth, go.
Well, I was gonna say, one of the myths that you see so often out there right now is these companies, and maybe you will name them, wink, wink, that say, "Oh, you could just pay us, blah, and we will get you a whole bunch of points, just like that."
Yes.
What's that about? What is that, a
All
myth?
right.
Is that a lie?
So
Is
that's
that partial
so that's
truth?
that's the second misrepresentation. That's the second outright lie. They'll say, we can help you add 20 to 100 points in the next 90 days. All right. And now people are like, "Oh, well, should I believe that?" That is the wrong question to ask. Ask yourself. The question is, do points matter?
Right.
And because everybody out there sells points, raise your credit score, buy a trade line, become an authorized user. My points go up. My points go up. My points go up. Points don't matter. Your credit score doesn't even get involved in the credit approval process until after you are approved. You guys, I cannot jump up and down strong enough. Your credit score is meaningless until after you are approved. Then your credit score is used to determine the interest rate, the term of the loan, whether you get a credit line that's a 3-year or a 7-year credit line, or your interest rate and the amount they're going to approve you. Do they want to give you $2,000 or do they want to give you $20,000? That's what your score is used for. It is not used in the approval process. It's not used in the approval process. Your score is not used in the approval process. What FICO and the lenders use, lenders approve you. They only refer to FICO after the fact. So people then need to know, well, what am I approved on? I mean, how do I get approved? Now we're pulling back the curtain. FICO uses an algorithm that reviews 40 borrower behaviors, and the lender software evaluates on your credit profile 40 borrower behaviors. Wait for it. Over the course of the last 24 months. So they look at your utilization. What does it look like? What's your balance look like over the last 24 months? How many times in the last 24 months have you paid on the due date? Not early, not late. How many times have you paid on the due date? What has your credit limit looked like over the last 24 months? Are you an expanding borrower or a contracting borrower? They look at 40 characteristics, 40 borrower behaviors. And those borrower behaviors are what create your approval. Then once they go, "I trust this man or this woman with my money," how much should I give them? What interest rate should I charge? And how long should the term be? Guys, that is the truth of this process. But yet you will walk away from you're likely to walk away from this conversation and then see an ad and you'll have that dopamine hit when somebody says, I'll raise your score 100 points. I don't care. And the lender doesn't care. The points only matter if you get the approval. So I've had, and you know this, I've been at live events, virtual events. People come up to me all the time. They're like, "Hey, I have an 800 plus credit score. Why won't people give me money?" And I'm like, because they don't care about your 800 plus credit score. When they run an inquiry and review your 40 borrower behaviors, you're not a good borrower for risk purposes. You're not a trustworthy borrower yet. Your score just means that you will qualify for whatever type of credit you already have. And so many borrowers have low value, and now we're getting into lots of technical terms, but low value credit profiles. You got retail cards on there, you got gas cards on there, and you got Capital Ones and Discovers and American Expresses on there. And those are low value cards. They're not national bank cards. Those are marketing organizations.
And so let's talk about that, because you go through the airport and they're constantly trying to sell you, hey, you can have a business credit card, and it's, with Southwest Airlines or American Airlines or whatever. And guess what? We're also going to give you a fuzzy teddy bear. And I do know that you have become almost violent with the free stuffed animals, because
they're trying to get the grandmas and the grandpas to take home a teddy bear to their grandchildren, right? Because they're saying this teddy bear, or even the department stores, hey, you'll get 10% off of your next purchase if you apply. But the very card you're applying for is a junk card. And everybody listen, Fico downgrades every mall store or retail card and calls it a consumer finance account, a consumer finance account. And those finance accounts downgrade the value of your profile to lenders, just like going to a cash advance, getting an inquiry to cash advance, the worst possible inquiry you can have. You get an inquiry at, forgive me, I'll just say any retail store. If it's at a mall, a strip mall, or a big box mall, there are different values of inquiries, because you're literally saying, oh, by the way, I'm acting like a consumer, so please downgrade my score with the inquiry, and if I get approved.
And so let's reverse that for a minute. So if you are a real estate agent or a business owner, an entrepreneur of any nature, and you want business, you want to be building up your business lines of credit, and you've already said this kind of in the reverse, but let's go directly at it. What are the things, like maybe the top 3 things that you should be doing to be able to be more attractive, to be more sexy to the lenders? What will make the lenders go, yes, 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 I want to throw money at you. I want to throw money at you.
Sure. All right. So I'll give it some simple ones. There's dozens and dozens, right? But let's go through some big ones. First of all, everybody says, yeah, you need to keep your balances on your personal credit cards. You need to keep your balances at 30% or lower, right? 30% is barely enough for a lender to consider you. If you're a stellar borrower, whether or not they might even give you a credit limit increase, but you're not using those balances. You're not telling future lenders that you are a spectacular borrower. It's 10% or less is the balances you should carry. Well, you should never carry a balance. Zero, pay it off to zero. What should be there is, I don't know, 5, 7, 10% should be reported to the bureaus. And if you don't know, what I'm saying, there's a way to report a balance to the credit bureaus and pay it to zero every month. This is probably the biggest secret I can tell you, is all of our listeners today need to understand that there's your reputation and then there's your relationships. Relationship means, what is the current financial relationship with your current lender, the credit card you're using. Now, you may have 3 or 5 or whatever, but you have a relationship. They're measuring these 40 borrower behaviors. They're called internal performance data. They're measuring these. Every single credit card company is measuring your borrower behaviors. But those borrower behaviors are then broadcast in the form of your financial reputation to the credit bureaus and scored by Fico and looked at by other lenders. That's your reputation. So you got so different things you do can improve your reputation here. I mean, prove your relationship, but harm your reputation. So you got to have a balance between those. So one of them is never carry a balance on personal. Now, if you want to talk balances, carry balances on your business credit cards, credit lines, and loans, not on your personal. Your personal, to have the most flawless reputation, you want zero balances. But there is a magic way. Some of us on here are we got Herman and Top Dog and a bunch of my friends who know that there is an insider secret for paying to zero but broadcasting the perfect balance. We haven't got the time to go through it now. The second thing I would do, and so many people get frustrated at this, but paying your credit card payment or paying your mortgage or paying your auto loan 2 or 3 days in advance actually hurts your your reputation. It doesn't hurt your relationship with the current bank. They don't care when you pay it as long as it's before the due date. Reputation, FICO measures how fastidious you are at paying on the due date. If you look at your consumer disclosure files through annualcreditreport.com, it says day due, date paid, amount due, amount paid. Those 4 numbers have 16 variations that are measured by the scores, right? So by FICO and the lender software. So if you pay before the due date, you're not getting the extra juice of being a fastidious on-time borrower. So the take-home message, guys, is that you need to create an auto draft that pays on the due date. So that way, both your reputation is flawless with the current lender, your relationship with the lender is flawless, and your reputation is flawless, being broadcast via your credit report and FICO scoring.
I think it's really important. Also, one of the things that you talked about, it's not just about the credit repair. It's about, optimization and realizing something you said earlier. I just want to echo it, is that the 40 characteristics, the 40 borrower behaviors. Those behaviors, what you're doing. And I think it's a weird thing, because I know some people come from that background of, I just want to pay cash. I don't want to worry about credit at all. And certainly, I just want to have everything at zero. And yet they do want to see you put some money on cards, especially business cards, right?
Yeah. So Dave Ramsey and I he hates consumer debt.
Yeah.
I hate consumer debt. So we're aligned there. But he throws strategic debt in the same category as all debt.
Which is a major thing, because Dave Ramsey and I disagree on a couple major things as well. And I think it's just short-term thinking versus long-term. And I think what you said about the 24-month look back period, they're looking at your behaviors over the last 24 months. This is really important because, of course, we're at the very end of October in the year 2021. So whenever you're watching this, think about right now, the last 2 years, 21 and 20. I mean, the last 24 months has been a pretty interesting time.
And if we didn't do the right things, there may be some unfundable characteristics about our borrower behaviors, right? Some of us have been paying a ton of debt off. Some of us have been trying to get more debt because we lost our job or a reduction in pay or hours or otherwise. So there's been a lot. You're absolutely right, Jennifer. A lot going on.
I want to go down that rabbit hole a little bit. I'm going to open the floor, by the way, to everybody who is here. We're going to open the floor to questions in about 15 minutes. I do want to go down the rabbit hole a little bit with the COVID-19, the pandemic. And, you and I have been doing these live shows literally since the very beginning. I remember the very first conversation, we were both like, wow, it's going to be a very interesting, the next 2 years is going to be very interesting. And now we're a year and a half, if not time later. And it's interesting because one thing I found was, with all of these things that the government put together where people didn't have to pay their mortgage. So some people who might have been able to pay their mortgage may have opted to, you know what, I'm just not going to pay it for the next 2 years. And with the idea that it was not going to report to their credit. And the thing is again, what we were talking about before about words, one of the things that I'm finding from lenders is it's not that it wasn't reported, It was reported. It is being recorded somewhere. It's just not necessarily being recorded as a derogatory.
Correct.
Yes.
So
Right?
awesome that you bring these subtleties up, because there's two things. There's a derogatory account that you're referring to, right? A delinquency, slow pays, collections, bankruptcies, liens, judgments. Those are derogatories. Then what most people aren't aware of is what are called negative indicators. Now, negative indicators, when you're over 40% a balance, that's a negative indicator on a credit card, and you're actually being monitored by the credit company risk department. That's a negative indicator. You have a perfect payment history, but inside your relationship with that lender, that's a negative indicator. Well, another one is that it's this is horrible, but when a third party this is the rabbit hole. Nothing can get in the way of a contractual agreement. For example, if you sign the bottom line for a credit card, but a divorce court says the husband owes this and the wife doesn't, and the husband doesn't pay that, the wife's credit will suffer, because the agreement was the wife also put her name on that agreement. No matter what the judge said who's responsible, so you can't get in the way of contracts. Contracts are the fundamental level of law. Well, the contract, if you say, yes, I'm going to pay on time every month my mortgage or auto loan or credit card payment, and then a third party comes in, the government, and says, you don't have to pay. Oh, and by the way, Chase, will you please be cool and not report them late? Guys, most people don't understand that in a year and a half ago, May of 2020, they literally suspended the credit reporting features of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, meaning if they're late, still say paid as agreed. If it's a moratorium, paid as agreed. But
Right.
there's an indicator there. The negative indicator says that subject to natural disaster. Well, we're like, okay, I still have 30 days late. But if your borrower behavior shows that you have the means to pay the mortgage and you're not because you're being told not to, you are harming your relationship with that lender because they're tracking your means to borrow. They know whatever you've stated on income. If you go over to Macy's and fill out an application, say, yeah, I make $8,000 a year in order to get a credit report, Chase knows through what's called a consortium of 9,000 banks called Fico Falcon. 9,000 banks all report all of your application information. So everybody knows. There are no secrets, guys. They know what you're reporting. So if their measurements say that they can't come after you because you asked for the moratorium, and that was what the government agreement was. If somebody asks, give it to them. We got you covered because it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and at least in mortgages. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac said they're government-sponsored organizations. So we got your back. So so Chase and Wells are all like, all right, cool. We'll let it. We won't count it. And then we get all these fake 30-day 30 paid as agreed. Paid as agreed, paid as agreed, paid as agreed. Well, I had a conversation with my liaison at FICO, and he's the guy who reports the health of the SBA loans to Congress, right? Him and his group stand before Congress and report how well the SBA portfolio is. And I asked him, hey, when are you going before Congress? He said, oh, yeah, we canceled on them because it's complete farce. There is no accurate data. There is no health and well-being because nobody's making payments. So there's nothing to report. It's, hey, everything's great because Congress, you said it's great.
Right.
So,
wink, hint, not really.
So there's so it's all a farce. It's just the emperor's new clothes, right? It's just that it's a farce. So so don't be deceived, you guys, that if you were offered a moratorium, the bank is keeping track of the people who have the means, and that's going to negatively impact your ability to borrow in the future because you didn't honor the relationship with them. If you didn't have the means and you lost your job and you didn't have savings and you couldn't make those payments, they understand, and that's what it was for. But they're called means checks, and if you had the means to do so and didn't, that's where the problem begins. I'm glad you brought that up, Jennifer.
I think it's really important because it's a huge difference in I think, like we said about words, I think that if you watch a lot of the mainstream news, you don't really get the full story. You get a soundbite. And again, the words are so often misunderstood. Just like, oh, your credit score, it seems like it's the shiny object that everybody thinks is what's going to help you get money, get your business funding, whether you're a real estate agent, an entrepreneur, a truck driver, whoever you are, to be able to get your business lines of funding. It's not just about a credit score. And again, just because the government, as you just said, the government said you don't have to pay your mortgage, and they said it's not being reported as, and listen to that, reported as derogatory. It's being recorded. You are not getting a past.
Yeah, you're not getting brownie points with the current lender. The current lender is going to check. Now, that I do have to say that one of the big shifts over this mess we've gone into compared to 2008 is in 2008, the banks had an old belief system that said, yeah, screw the borrowers. Let's just collect all the properties. We'll repossess all of them back. That didn't serve them then. For 10 years, they were sitting on fields and subdivisions of inventory, right? And it did not serve them, and everybody hated them. And there was this mass movement to credit unions, local banks, et cetera, right? And when they went into this one, it was completely different. The lender conferences that I attended, the symposiums I attended, it was all about how do we nurture our borrowers? How do we build a relationship with the borrowers? That's why they were very gentle about, hey, I'm having difficulty making my mortgage payment. You qualify, right? I mean, they're very, very, they leaned in to the borrowers. But as borrowers, guys, if we're going to build this relationship, we get to lean in too. They're not just impersonal big banks, right? They have the money to fuel and finance our dreams. But we have to be responsible for building our relationship with them. They don't get to be the ones coming to tell. How many of your personal relationships work when only one of you's trying? It ain't gonna last long, right?
Not even a friendship. Even a friendship relationship is not going to work if it's a one-sided thing.
So imagine your personal relationships all had 40 relationship behaviors that they were measuring you by. I mean, how many of us are even going to be in relationship, right? This is not okay. We get to lean in. We get to choose in. And that's what that's my whole message. Get fundable, right? My whole message is, how do we get fundable, but not take from the lenders? How do we lean in? How do we become that perfect borrower? How do we become that perfect customer? So they're like, they make me feel really safe. They're on the bullseye of qualifications. They're not way out here. They're on the bullseye. I'm going to give them my money. And then you treat that money well, they want to give you more. They're like, you're my favorite borrower on the planet. Here's some more, right? So.
And that's part of what I mean about it. It's a game, and I want to play it. I want to have fun with it in getting money, getting funding. It is all about a game. But again, it's like Monopoly. If you don't know the rules, or if all of a sudden they've shifted and changed, and guess what? The pandemic definitely changed them. But two, we were lied to in the beginning. So a lot of times we're starting off with false data that is so completely incorrect. So we need to make sure we've cleared off the stuff that is not correct, that is just complete lies. And then we need to understand, again, how do we nourish that relationship with banks in our buyer or borrower behavior, what we're buying, what we're borrowing, what we're paying off, and there is a strategy to that. And I'm going to also say it is like a fingerprint, which is one of the reasons that it's so unique, and everybody has to look at, like sometimes I'll ask you a specific question and I love your answer. You're like, well, it depends. And that's not an evasive answer. It's
There's
just,
no evasion going
it
on.
depends, because you need to look at the full picture, because that's what the credit bureaus are looking at, but that's also what the lenders are looking
Absolutely.
at. So if you don't understand it, it's not going to work, right?
Yeah. So let me kind of give an analogy. So imagine these 40 borrow behaviors. They go think of them as silos, like a bar chart on a graphs, right? So a bar chart, and there's 40 of them, and they go from 1 to 10. Now, so that's a total of 400 points. Now I'm oversimplifying, but this gets the point across. So there's 400 points, and they will approve you at, let's say, 350 points. Okay. Now, how much they give you is based on your credit score. After that, they will approve you at 400 points or at 350 points. Now, there are minimums. Let's say we're going to simplify. Let's say every single one of them, you have to have at least a 5, right? So 5 times 40 is, 5 times 4, yeah, is 200. We need 200 points. Right? That's the minimum. They're not even going to consider you. You have to have minimums, but some of them can be 8s, some of them can be 6s, some of them are 10s. So they have to be at least 5. But the point is that if you guys can push to the highest possible level, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s on 35 of these silos, then you're not just going to get approved, but you're going to also have a very high, you're going to get a $25,000 approval instead of a $5,000 approval. What we call test approvals. Anything under 10, guys, is a test approval. They're just testing the waters to see how you treat it, right? So that's kind of how I use it. 400 points, you need 350. You have to have a minimum of 5 on any one of them, but it doesn't have to be a 10 on every single one of them. You can have some 6s, you can have some 7s, but for every 6, you got to have a 10. For every 7, you got to have a 9, etc.
And one of the things I promise we'll do one of the times, the next time, we're going to definitely do whiteboards, because I think it also helps people have examples. But everybody who's listening in Clubhouse, I want to go ahead and let you know, I'm going to start with John Lee, because he always has great questions. But I always promise I want to make sure that we answer questions, and I'm sure Merrill will stay a little bit late if you guys have some other questions, because we started a little bit late.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and let's start asking questions. I always have a million more questions, but I wanted to make sure that we get to everybody's questions, because believe me, you have an amazing guru here. And if you're a real estate agent, you want to know about business credit. If you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, anyone, understanding the game of business credit is so incredibly, it's so powerful. I mean, it really is one of the most amazing things ever. So let's go ahead and let's start with John Lee. John, do you have a question for Merrill?
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, and I appreciate you being on here. Merrill, you always share such good nuggets, and thank you very much.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great. My question, you brought up a really good point here. When I was a mortgage broker, I used to see people come in with, I think you called them consumer accounts. They'd have like an 810 credit score, and they think they could borrow anything, and they'd only have like a J.C. Penney's or a Capital One card.
Yep.
There's a big difference. And you talked about national cards. What would be good national cards to tell us about?
Okay. Yeah, very good. So if you would like to know, I have pre-vetted cards by tier, both in personal and business. So everybody write this down, getfundablecreditcards.com. Getfundablecreditcards.com. So the ones at the top, the ones tier 1 are your national bank cards. That's Wells Fargo, Citi, Bank of America, and Chase. The tier 1. Now, tier 2 include marketing organizations, which is you're not going to find Capital One in there, but you will find a couple of pre-selected American Expresses. Discover's not in there, but there are a couple of 80% value, and the 100%, 80%, 60% simply mean that they are how much they contribute. Think of it, if you have a silo that can have 100 points, you're only getting 60 points if you have a 60% card, 80 points if you get an 80% card, because a marketing company isn't a depository institution. So it has limitations and is valued differently. So getfundablecreditcards.com, both personal business, the business ones I vetted, none of those cards report to your personal profile, but they're still by tier. 100%, tier 1, 100%, tier 1, 80%, tier 2, etc. So, but there's a list of them that I've pre-vetted. I've done all the heavy lifting so that you can be assured that you get a card, what we call a high value card versus a low value card to your profile. But those are the top 4 big banks. Then their other tier: U.S. Bank, PNC, BB&T, BBA Compass. All the regional banks are also regulated by the comptroller of the currency. That's so some of the tiers are based on who's regulating and what kind of rules of engagement that they have.
That's excellent. So it's getfundablecreditcards.com for anybody who's listening, getfundablecreditcards.com. And then I don't see, is there anyone, I can't imagine the whole room, you guys raise your hands, ask questions. This is an amazing opportunity to ask questions. Feel free to raise I know I got most of my back channel questions are just people saying hi, which is great. I love seeing everybody, but I want to make sure, but if I don't see any more raised hands, I'm going to continue. I want to ask Merrill more questions. So I don't see anybody else who's raised their hands yet. So one of the big things I wanted to talk about was, of course, as somebody who is trying to establish credit. Oops, wait a minute. I'm starting to see hands. Okay, good. Let's get these guys up. One thing is the big difference in what's a real credit card. Okay, good. So what do we have? Well, how do I say your name? T-O-I. Is it Toy?
It's Toy.
Toy.
Hi, Toy.
This is a really good room here. I wanted to, I just kind of jumped in on the part where he was listing the top cards. So did you say that was Wells Fargo, Chase, and what were the other 2?
Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, and Citi. They're all listed on that getfundablecreditcards.com. So if you click on them, they'll show you any one of those, depending on your travel, rewards, the types that you want. That's a different conversation. These are vetted by value. So I'm looking at it now. It says personal tier 1, 100% value personal credit cards. Then there's tier 1, 80% value credit cards because they're co-branded. And then and those are the 2 levels, because there are no tier 2s there, because I don't want to recommend low value marketing cards, etc.
Explain what that is, though. I mean, I think that so often people don't understand, like a low value, or you said a marketing. So like if somebody's getting one that might be like a Hilton or something that's an airline.
Okay. Those are what we call co-branded. Those aren't marketing cards. Those are co-branded. That's a tier 1, 80%. A tier 2, Discover, Capital One. Now, Capital One, that's not in the North, branches that are not in the Northeast or in the Southwest. But Capital One 360, which is the marketing company, those cards are actually evaluated by Fico and lenders differently than the ones you get at the depository institutions in the Northeast and in the Southwest. So Discover, American Express, and Capital One are all tier 2 80% credit cards. They're tier 2 because they're not depository institutions. They're marketing companies. They're evaluated completely different by regulators. And you'll notice that some of the highest points and the highest merchant fees come from these marketing companies, not from your traditional depository banks. Now, but I did want to say that there are banks that are regional banks, and they're not listed here. Your PNCs, your BB&Ts, you know, a U.S. bank is listed in here, but most of those offers are because they're too vast. There's probably, I don't know, 70 banks, all of which might have multiple credit cards. I would dilute the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to give you guys high value cards that are tier 1 credit cards. Now, we talked about department stores a minute ago. Those are tier 4 cards, tier 4. So department stores and your Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki credit, revolving credit. So when you buy a Wave Runner and they put it on a revolving account, that's a tier 4. That's ugly, low value credit instrument. But in tier 3 are local community banks and community banks and credit unions are tier 3. So you got national banks, regional banks, local banks and credit unions, and then finance companies and sorry, junk.
Junk. Okay. That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Toy. Any other questions, Toy?
Yeah. So any other questions, Toy?
I think that's it. I was actually just trying to help establish. My son is getting ready to turn 18, and I was trying to help him. Really, he's got this real bright business mind, and he really wants to take off. And I'm like, okay, first we have to establish your credit for you, so that all these ideas and entrepreneurship thoughts that you have in your head, you will be able to take off and not get stuck once you get to the
Absolutely.
point where
So Toy, please, I beg you, do me a solid. Never make him an authorized user. Never, ever. Because an authorized user allows you to get points. But what you may have missed earlier in our conversation is that points do not get you approved. Your borrower behaviors get you approved. So you're going to be sold by 100 people. Oh yeah, just put him on as an authorized user and his score will go up to 680 or 720. Yay. That doesn't help you. The best way to do it is either a secured instrument that you'll find on that website, or run a checking account with him with one of the top 4 banks, run a checking account, run traffic through that checking account. And usually within 6 months, they will offer a $500 to $2,000 credit card that's a tier 1, 100% golden that he can have for the rest of his life and age the daylights out of that thing. No authorized users, I beg you. You're going to see a bump in your score. You're going to get a dopamine hit from the score jump, and it's going to be meaningless to the quality of his profile. Because then if he ends up going to my boot camp or any of the education we do, he's going to be like, Mom, why'd you give me an authorized user?
I'm glad you said that, because I was following a credit course, how to start your credit course for my son. And they did say, they was like, put him on as, I was like, why would you put a kid on as
everybody?
But they didn't explain it.
Yeah, because everybody believes that score matters. And Toy, your score it's not counted. Your score is worthless till after you're approved. It will not approve him. That bump in his score will not get him approved. Okay. there are 40 borrower behaviors that get measured. So what we do is you do a secured card, or you do a checking account, so they can start watching the borrower behaviors. And those borrower behaviors will be like, why don't we give them a $1,000 credit card? That's the next step in relationship building. Just like you're teaching your young man how to treat his relationships well, you give him flowers first. You take him on a nice walk. You take him to the movies. He's a gentleman, right? And then all of a sudden they lean in because they trust him, and they're like, you know what? I think I want to go out with you more. Relationships with banks is no different. We go gently, and we go carefully, and we go deliberately into relationship.
Okay. Now he does. So this is the weirdest thing I'm going to tell you. When he was not able to work, he wanted to work. So he created this job for himself. It's called Scoop Dog, and he has been working this thing since he was 13, but never he never did any, you know how you go out and you say, this is my name of my company, this is what I created. He never did that. He just got a t-shirt and went out, and he does well with that business. But
beautiful.
So I did open up a Wells Fargo account for him. Now, should I go and get a Wells Fargo security, like Visa or MasterCard? He's been having a checking account for 4 years now.
Boom. Go have him apply. How much, now we're getting personal, but how much money would you say has been going through that account on a monthly basis?
Well, with the business, because he also works too, but with the business alone, I would probably say maybe like $2,000.
Oh, for 4 years, darling, you get him in there and apply for, you just apply for any Wells Fargo account. You can go into the branch, you can go to the cards that I've vetted from Wells Fargo, but there are some great, the Wells Fargo. In fact, they've got some really good Wells Fargo new ones out. It's called the 2x2, I believe. There's the cash. There's some great Wells Fargo cards. That would be tier 1, 100%, and you will start him off. And even $2,000, he will get an approval. He will get an approval.
And on a completely different note, just because I want to make sure, Toy, go to my YouTube channel, and you'll see I actually interviewed a woman named Erica. She's an attorney who does trademarks. And for your son, he should definitely start trademarking his idea.
Yeah.
That's a really important part as part of your funding as well, is because you're establishing a business. And it's an actual behavior that it's a business, not a hobby, right?
Yeah, and there's some great things. If he's this devoted to it, man, we need to get an LLC under him, and so that he starts building a relationship and aging that business. Because Wells Fargo, I'm going to tell you right now, Wells Fargo will get in it. When that company hits 2 years old, we'll give him, besides a business credit card, because there's a personal credit card and a business, he is likely for business credit lines and business loans by building that relationship. So I love Wells Fargo as a business banker. So there's some great things. Check out the resources in my profile. There's a boot camp there that you can go to getfundablejennifer.com to go to the boot camp. But if he wants a real credit education from the ground up, we have a boot camp going in on November 5th and 6th. And I'm telling you guys, if you guys want to get the rug pulled out from underneath you and Toy build, he won't have the rug, he will build a bulletproof profile from this very young age. So just take a look, you guys, get the intel you need to create the results that you want for the rest of your life.
Yay! Thanks, Toy, for all those.
Good luck, Toy.
Questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And Herman, I want to go ahead and see if you have any questions let's go ahead and, Herman, are you there?
Hey, Herman, how you doing, brother?
Herman, did you have a question or a comment? Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Well, thanks for bringing me up. And hey, I see, I jumped in primarily because I seen Merrill here, and I do have a couple of questions, but it's going to be like teaching related. So, first and foremost, Merrill and I know each other from this platform. Then I had the pleasure of meeting him and Sky in Vegas. We sat at the same table, and I got to pick his brain about a bunch of things. So if y'all have not taken his business boot camp, I would strongly advise you to take his business boot camp, because it does break down, his boot camp, because it breaks down all the 48 borrower behaviors to get you in a better spot. So first and foremost, I want you to know that I not only sit at the table with him, but I've watched his program. That's the first thing. Second thing is I sent over. Oh, you're welcome. So if you see this profile on here, I would like to claim it as my own, but that's my wife's profile. And the question that I have for Merrill and for everybody else is that a lot of people, they come to me and they want to use their Credit Karma or some type of advantage score or whatever the case might be. The issue was here, Merrill simply was to FICO, so you can get the real scores and everything else. So, Merrill, if you can discuss the difference between the advantage scores and the FICO score.
Yes.
And I got a couple other questions, Jennifer, but I don't want to dominate your platform.
Thank you so much. So go ahead. That's a really important one. I almost always
question.
ask that one. But yeah.
So I distinguish it. I call them FICO and FICO scores. Okay. So a FICO score is any score that is not used in the approval process. Like a lender uses it to establish your rate and term and how much after you've been approved. If it isn't used in that process, it's a fake score. I don't care if there's 100 million people being deceived by Credit Karma that those are your credit scores. They are not the credit scores used by lenders to get in the approval process. They're not. I love to disappoint you, hate to disappoint you. Sorry, not sorry, because you guys deserve the truth. You deserve the truth. And the bottom line is that Credit Karma got really cheap scores. FICO scores are not cheap. So they got really cheap scores because in their business model, they said, hey, let's indoctrinate the entire American borrower public with fake scores, because nobody knows what the difference between fake scores and real scores. Nobody knows. So we can get away with it. No joke. These are what I guarantee you, their backroom board rooms, the boardrooms are making decisions based on your ignorance. Forgive me, but it's true. And so the problem is that we have to determine if it's a real score, if it's a score used by lenders. And if it's not used by lenders, then you cannot count on it. Many of you sitting in this room may actually use your Credit Karma score to help you determine your financial self-worth. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You guys, because a study was done by an independent group where they took 1,000 people who subscribed to myfico.com. If you want your real scores, all 28 lender used scores, go to myfico.com. But they were subscribed to myfico.com and they had accounts at Credit Karma. The average difference between Credit Karma scores and myFICO scores used by lenders was 40 points higher by Credit Karma. So I cannot tell you the number of heartbreaks that there have been of clients calling up my advisors and say, or people coming to me at a live event going, my Credit Karma said I had a 740 credit score, so I went to get a car and they financed me at 660.
Yikes.
Why? And I have to, I said, besides going, go to my boot camp, I tell them, because Credit Karma gets its juice from making you feel like you have a chance at getting approved. But if every one of you went to Credit Karma right now and pull up Credit Karma, they're going to show you your account, and then they're going to have an advertised credit card right next to your scores. There is a preferred or advertised credit card. They're going to give you fake scores here to lie to you, and then they're going to, but when you click that button to apply for that featured card, they're going to use FICO scores in the approval process. The lender behavior, the borrower behaviors approve you, and they use the FICO score to determine the limit. Just like I said earlier, they're not going to use Credit Karma scores. And if the scores that you're looking at are 30 to 40 points higher than what what's going to be pulled in the approval process, you guys, they're lying to us so we get us to click the damn button, so they get us to try and see if we can fit their underwriting criteria so that they make more money. That's not okay with me.
Yep. We are
And you
going to
guys
get
are-
some sound effects next time, I
Yeah.
swear, because we need some more dramatic sound effects, just because I think that it also, we miss it. Because again, like I sometimes I feel like I ask you all the same questions over and over. And that's one that's so important, is understanding, you know, I hear it advertised all the time, Credit Karma, Credit Karma. And I have, again, my clients who come to me and go, well, my Credit Karma score is, and I'm like, oh dear God. You know, and I feel so bad because they're just being lied to, and I've been lied to. I mean, I know I've told this story before, but when I first met you, I used to be like, huh? And I would look at you a little sideways, and then I would go and I would try out all sorts of things you talked about so that I could have my own experiences with it, which is one of the things that I say about anything in life is go figure it out, find out for yourself, pay it on time, on the exact date, look at your score, and then go talk to a lender.
3 months
It's
in a row. Yep.
Find the truth, just like we were just talking about the credit cards and the tier 1s versus tier 2 or tier 4 or any of those. Anyway, Herman, I'm going to go ahead and go to some of these other guys real quick. So let's go to Curtis. Curtis, do you have a question?
Yes. Hey, good morning, everybody. Merrill, thanks for pinging me in. You just blew my mind with the, because I was thinking about adding my children on. I literally just had this conversation too. A card, I have like a junior and a freshman in college, and but I realized they have TD bank accounts. TD Bank that I've had them, and they've been working direct deposit. So
yes,
is just go to them and see if I can get them a card.
A great regional bank. Absolutely love TD. And depending on the traffic, if they deny you, just increase the amount you run through their accounts. It doesn't have to be like toy with business revenues or what. You could just literally just be transferring money from your account to their account. Doesn't matter where the traffic comes from. They want to see that you are actively building a relationship with them. Jennifer, our work here is done. We saved another family from the violence of authorized users.
Exactly.
Well done, Curtis.
The lies from authorized users. And if you notice, they pop up on your credit card thing all the time. Hey, do you have somebody you want to be an authorized user? I'm always like, no. Why are you doing that? And obviously you just need to know they're lying to you.
The whole point of it is they just want that person to also spend money and put traffic on the account, right? That's all they want to do, because they don't care about your reputation. They want more money in your relationship with them. They don't care about your reputation. Every bank is a vertical. So that's why I've separated. And that's why we talk about it at the boot camp. There's a vertical of the relationship with the bank, but it's different behaviors have to be considered while you build a reputation that's being broadcast out there in the world.
Go ahead and mention the boot camp one more time. What's the where they go to sign up for that?
Yeah, you go to my profile or getfundablejennifer.com. Jennifer's our delightful host today. Getfundablejennifer.com, or my bio, my Insta is Merrill Chandler 360. We have a 10K card, Merrill Chandler, or getfundablecard.com. We're everywhere. We are everywhere. But the boot camp is all about getting the fundamentals. And here's the thing. You heard it here first. If you have a child under 21 years old, I don't care if you have 3 children, all you need to do is buy 1 ticket to the boot camp. I want families to be doing this together. So Curtis, if you get a ticket, your however many children you have under 21 get to attend, included in that. As long as you're having a viewing party, get some popcorn, get some notes. I'm telling you, we're going to blow your mind. But I'm just giving it away to the adult children of our listeners.
So let's go ahead. I want to get to the last question. I kept Merrill way longer. You got to remember it's 6 a.m. Well, it was 6 a.m. when we started this whole thing.
I was all
early, and
I look like a mole. I look like a mole.
In here helping us. So for any of you guys who is super early in the morning, I love that you're up here early. And so let's go ahead and go to the last question. I do not want to just totally kill your name. How do I say your name? Is it
Kaidero?
Cadero? Is that Cadero? Are you there?
Yeah, it's Cadero.
Yay!
Cadero, excellent, Cadero. How? What's up for you today?
I just got a simple question. I always had a Wells Fargo account. Do you suggest that I start with a secured credit card, or wait for them to offer me a credit line?
How long have you had your Wells Fargo account, and how much money do you have going through it for pretty faithfully every month?
I started this account when I was 16, so like over 16 years ago. So every job that I have the direct deposit going through there. So I have money and a relationship built with them. That's why, when
So do you have a personal credit card with Wells Fargo yet?
No, I just have
go for it. You are 99 percentile of being approved. So what you need to do is you go to Wells Fargo, just go to wellsfargo.com and or Wells Fargo credit cards. Look at the Wells Fargo credit cards and see which kind of benefits, because there's like they now have a 2% card that comes back. There's a couple of different things. Pick your poison. They're all going to have the same. Now, we need to, this is a horrible question. If you've been here, but what is your current credit score? Because I can't ask you a simple question and say, what's your 40 borrow behaviors, right? So what's your score right now?
640 right now.
640? Then you probably need to be a 680 or higher. And I say that the scores don't matter, but here's what happens. For most people, if you're under 700, that means there's something going on, either high balances that'll get you rejected, or you got derogatory points that'll get you rejected, or derogatory accounts that'll get you rejected. We need to figure out. I'm not here to sell anybody something, but if you want the education, go to my profile. There's some free ebooks to check out the boot camp. There's more to this. We need to find out what your borrower behaviors are, Cadero, and I can't ask that right now. 640 is likely too low, but I don't know what simple moves we need to do to get your borrower behaviors higher.
And I was gonna say, Merrill, it could actually be some simple behaviors, like even identity, or it could be something simple. It's not necessarily a credit repair. That's one of the
exactly. And so the thing is I would talk to a banker and say, and ask for a secured card. If they have a secured card, they waffle, they have a secured card, then they discontinue it. Then they have another one and they discontinue it. So check a secured card. That might be your best bet versus the checking account in your particular case. Again, I call it the Muskogee principle. Sometimes while we're sitting here in a virtual environment, somebody asks a question. It's like saying, hey, my car's on the side of the road in Muskogee, Oklahoma. How do I fix it? And I'm like, I have I got to get under the hood. So that's what we do together in this weekend event. So go to the profile, go to getfundablejennifer.com. You guys, for any of you that are listening, just go to getfundablejennifer.com. Just read the reviews. Just don't buy a thing. Just go read the reviews. There's literally 40, 50 reviews about the boot camp, so you can see if this is the right thing. Don't do it if it's not the right for you. But if those reviews resonate, then let's join forces and get this stuff done, because there's so much to know, but it's so simple. Like you said, Jennifer, it could be just your identity that's standing in the way. And so that's what we want to be able to do from there. Yeah.
And I know that we're way over time, which I really appreciate.
I know you are over time, Jennifer. I wanted to help with this one little thing. Because Merrill, a lot of people ask about authorized user, but what I did for my son was that we added him as a joint user with Wells Fargo, with Chase, and we done some credit repair too for him. But when we did this, because he had like cell phones and other BS stuff on there, it jumped just go up, and y'all got real estate in there, and he was able to acquire real estate once his score jumped up as a joint user. What is your take on that? And before you answer that as well, I know you have to go. I want to tell everybody that Merrill will be speaking at my event November the 20th in New Orleans. We share the stage together in Vegas. I asked him and Sky to come down, and they're coming down to speak at a one-day business boot camp where you have time to see it. But joint users, what's your opinion on that?
Excited. I'm so excited to be there. So a joint user is where they pull your credit and they pull each party's credit. It could be, like I said, a father and a son, a husband and a wife, business partners. But joint means that it's not authorized user. You both get full credit on the account. The only thing that I don't like about joints is that at some point you need to separate those. After you have a better track record and better relationship, Herman, you separate so that he can apply for his own card, but one of you may lose the aging, because if you stay on, and I'm telling you the most optimized, perfect lenders love one person, one account. Because there's somebody to point at. It doesn't get in family matters, family fights, divorces. Lenders love one account, one person. But one of you, Herman, in a joint environment, one of you is if you what we call disjoin the account, one of you is going to lose the aging. And so and so I wouldn't want him to, now he's got real estate, right? Now he's building his profile, things are going well, and now he has to start a credit card all over. So if it got him to where he's going, well, you know the saying, what got you here isn't going to get you there. So we need to make sure that while he's done, you've helped him get to where he is. We need a good strategy. And you and I will be talking this week, I believe, about besides the event, about some of these strategies, right? We want to make sure that what gets us to the next level, we make those really, really powerful and smart moves.
Okay, we have more questions. Do you want to stay for another couple minutes? Okay.
Go for it. I got up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Let's do this.
I was going to say, I know what it feels like to show up in a room and then all of a sudden be like, wait, I got a question. So let's go ahead and let's go. Is it Keitha? Good morning. Do you have a question for Merrill? We can barely hear you. I don't know if you're talking or just cutting in and out.
Better.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
from Louisiana, and I chimed in on the section that you were talking about children and helping to initiate or get them some credit, history started.
Yes.
And my son and daughter are 13 and 14. I added them to a Premier Plus checking Chase account that I have that's been, great standings for years. Was that the right move? It says high school account, but they have their own number. Their social is connected to it. Was that a good move?
Yes. Now, tell me a little bit about this particular account. Does it depend on you being there? Can you leave that account and it be their own account? That's the first question you've got to ask Chase, because it doesn't help them. It's like a bird's leaving the nest, right? If they never leave the nest, they're a great little bird, but they got to be able to get out on their own. So if you can say, yes, please take me off of this account, and it's their account, then yes, that is masterful move. Now what we need to do is just make sure that either their paychecks are doing auto draft or you're running additional money. Guys, everybody who's listening, the more money that goes through, and we talk about this, damn it, in the boot camp, that there are certain dollar thresholds, and some of them are pretty low, but there are dollar thresholds that help you understand how a bank is going to treat you. And so if you hit these thresholds, then the bank is like, I like this people, right? So we want to hit those thresholds. And so, the more money you can run through there, and the further the higher the thresholds, the greater chance they're going to get an approval the second they hit 18. They can't get their own credit card. Don't make them an authorized user. I beg you. I just beg you. But you're doing the right thing, building a relationship with the checking account, get the traffic going through that checking account. And then when they turn 18, get them their own, apply for a credit card. It might be a $500 limit. It might be a $2,000 limit, but now we've got them because Chase rocks. They're a tier 1 bank, and they're you're doing great.
Thank you very much, and I'll see both you and Mr. Herman in New Orleans. And Mr.
Oh,
Herman.
wonderful! I can't wait. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Merrill, unfiltered on stage, you are gonna love him.
Yeah, we don't have a time limit. Well, I think I asked a few other people up to stage, but they didn't come. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're almost at an hour and a half. So I want to go ahead and respect your day and your time. So I'm going to ask everybody to come off their mics. And I always end every show with obviously a lot of gratitude, but with my famous yay. So I'm going to ask you to lift your voices and say yay with me as we close down the clubhouse room and we end our YouTube. I'm so grateful. Thank you for bringing your expertise, and thank you for your passion to help people and to get rid of financial literacy. So 3, 2, 1.
Yay! Woo! Thank you so much, Jennifer. Have a great day, everybody. I'm going to be in LA this week on Sunday at the